Well, good day to you. Today is launch day for the Reframed Brain podcast. I am your founder and host, Erica Savage Wilson, brain injury champion, and I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you to everyone that did subscribe. And if you have not yet subscribed and maybe you found out about the podcast through a friend or just by happenstance, if you'll go to thereframedbrain.com. When you sign up, it takes about 2 or 3 seconds to subscribe. What you will receive for subscribing via email will be my 5 best brain health tips, and you'll also receive a playlist that I curated especially for you. So, why the Reframed Brain? So, I just want to take a moment and use today's episode as a way to introduce who I am and what the purpose of this podcast is. The purpose of this podcast is because March of 2021, I was traveling for work, and while traveling, I was hit twice by a large truck. Now, as a result of that accident, I sustained a traumatic brain injury and several physical injuries on my left side. But the focus, particularly for the Reframed Brain, are those unseen injuries. I went from a highly functioning person to someone who requires in-home health care, required occupational physical therapy, a great deal of mental health that I'm still receiving that care, and a myriad of other services. At one point, my medical care team was as many as 9 different professionals. So what I want to shine a light on, particularly since we are all traversing through this global pandemic, are the unseen injuries, because there are studies that have been produced that show that so many people, not just here in the United States where I am, but across the globe, have been suffering with anxiety, have been suffering with worry, different stressors, and insomnia. And the medical term for that is coronasomnia. So there are a myriad of issues that really do fit us all together. And I want to talk about and explore that. Now, let me share with you what the Reframed Brain podcast is not. The Reframed Brain podcast is not therapy. It is not a substitute for therapy. I myself am not a medical practitioner, a doctor, or have any certifications in therapeutics. What I am an expert in is brain health, because having sustained a traumatic brain injury and having to go through and still have to go through appointments that are specific to my healing, I am an expert in my own lived experience. And I have a very unique understanding of what it is to lose your executive functioning. That is this part of your brain. That part of my brain is compromised, is damaged. The root system is compromised. And so I am taking steps, and I want us to take steps together to ensure that we optimize brain health. One fact is that African Americans or Black Americans suffer disproportionately from dementia and Alzheimer's. It is a debilitating disease, Alzheimer's is. And that is across all ethnic, all racial lines. However, as a Black woman, as someone who has my lived experience as a Black woman, I want for us and just humanity at large to be very aware of things that we want to attain. We want to have stability in relationships. We want to have stability in our work professions. We want to have stability in relationships. All of those things cannot happen unless we optimize our brain health. It's great to have our physical health optimized. It's great to have your spiritual health optimized. It's great to have all those other areas that I mentioned optimized. However, if we are not functioning optimally in our brain, all of those things they have no basis to thrive and to live. So that is what I'm bringing forward to you with the Reframed Brain podcast. And so I will be talking with you and sharing with you some of the things that I am using and some of the different procedures that have boded well for me, that have optimized my own health. This again is not saying, well, if you do this in substitute, that it will work for you. I'm going to share what has worked for me. Also, I'm going to have throughout the podcast, we'll have medical care practitioners, we'll have wellness experts, and we'll have other people on that are moving and thriving through brain injuries. Now, a couple of things I do want to mention through this podcast, which won't be any more than about 30 minutes when we have a guest. It might exceed an hour. I myself am still healing. And so I have sensitivities to light. I have sensitivities to flashes. There are a number of things that I still have sensitivities to. And I also have to take what I have deemed as my brain health naps or sleeps, which can last anywhere from 2 to 3 hours throughout the day. So this is a very structured, this is a very purposeful podcast, and want to share that with you because this podcast will be every first and third Monday. I absolutely love Mondays. Some of my favorite days of the week are Sunday, Monday, and Saturday. My all-time favorite days of the week. But during the weekday, Mondays are my favorite day. So, for those who have a case of the Mondays, as it is said in culture, for those people who need a little get up and go, I hope that you'll choose the Reframed Brain podcast as a way to get you through the day. Every first and third Monday. So today is Tuesday, January 22nd. Next Monday will be the last Monday of the month, January 31st. The Monday after that, you can expect that morning the Reframed Brain podcast. Where will we be? Well, we're looking to still be added onto Apple Pod, Google Play, and all other places that you receive your podcasts. For right now, it is available on YouTube at the Reframed Brain channel. So please go to the Reframed Brain podcast, like it, subscribe it. Let's be in community because that is really what we want to build here at the Reframed Brain. We want to build community. And if you happen to have the Podbean app, you can also access the Reframed Brain in audio format only at Podbean. And you would just look up the Reframed Brain. Thirdly, this will, as I said, every first and third Monday, and it should be released anywhere between 9 and 10 o'clock a.m. So you can be looking for that at that time. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to discuss and talk with you about is around some of the people that we'll have on, the medical care practitioners. These are people that I have used and have seen in my own journey to wellness. Now, some of those people range from my neuropsychologist, therapist, not saying that it will be my neuropsychologist, but these are the different people that are journeying with me, the different medical practitioners. I receive acupuncture, I've received occupational therapy, which has included having grab bars, shower bars installed in the home to ensure that I don't have falls. And then also helping me to learn to drive again. Physical therapists, those people who were very, who were important in helping me to regain use of my shoulder, of my arm, my leg, and really to help me to begin to walk again. Some of the different care that I've used have been and still receive home health care, where I have a home health aide that comes into the home. And sometimes it's for companionship. Sometimes it's for me to travel to different places. And as you can see behind me, my loves, I am a new plant mom. I went from having 0 plants before my brain injury to up to 30 plants. So that is very important in my life as well. And if you have plants and if you have always loved plants, have a love for horticulture, I'm sure that you have a deep and fond appreciation to the life that plants bring. But it is also super important in my health and my wellness journey because plants are living organisms and they do so much to clean the air, but they also do help boost the healing for people that are suffering with unseen injuries. So, and also TBI practitioners, traumatic brain injuries or TBI has often been associated with those individuals who were in the military and who have been in theater, which means that they were in a time of war. But people that suffer with traumatic brain injuries aren't all in the military. Traumatic brain injury, CTE, span from sports to people who unfortunately were in domestic violence situations, and people who have been in accidents, unfortunately. So traumatic brain injuries are plagued all across the globe. So those practitioners who specialize in seeing people with traumatic brain injuries will be featured here as well. And to add to that, we're just going to have other guests who you probably didn't even know or think that are very much so integral to healing for folks that have brain injuries. I am very, very fortunate and very, very thankful that after 10 months of a lot of hard work, days where I couldn't get out of bed, days where I didn't feel like going on, that we're going to be building community and talking about these things, because what I have seen, and I'm sure that we've all felt and noticed at one time, having now been 24 months into a global pandemic, there is a fatigue that set in. There's a certain hopelessness that is set in for some people. And there's a real, real battle for some people to see when there will be a way out. There is a way out. This pandemic will not last forever. And so that is why the Reframed Brain really serves the entire community of humanity. I have a really unique understanding, as I said, as to someone who has had to help to build new neural pathways inside of my own brain, having to show up weekly for my own mental health. And so whether or not you have a diagnosis, you are included in this community. What the Reframed Brain seeks to do is to reframe some of the ways that we look and we think about things. For instance, one of the things that we'll be talking about on our very first episode of the Reframed Brain, our next episode rather, the Reframed Brain, the first Monday of February, is we're going to be dealing with language, the importance of language. There are things that we say, things that we think, negative self-talk, and I know that there's a lot of things that run across our social feeds that are very, geared towards ingesting very quickly. However, the practice of language, of ensuring that the language that we use in our everyday conversation, language that we use when we first open up our eyes, those first few minutes that we have of consciousness, it's very important that we're seeding our own self with language that affirms who we are, that speaks and shapes our day. A lot of things that we say and do, and a lot of things that we ingest, actually do shape our day. That is why the Reframed Brain centers brain health and the unseen. The unseen does a lot of shaping. However, when we reframe the way that we look at our day, when we reframe the way that we look at our language, when we reframe the way that we look at how we even look at things, it definitely bodes well for us. So I'll walk you through a little bit of my practice in the morning, and we'll get in more we'll have more detail around this in later episodes of the Reframed Brain. For instance, when I first wake up in the morning, I've shared that I know a lot of us have not the traditional alarm clocks, but perhaps we have alarms set on our phones. However, I wake up early enough, my body wakes me up early enough before my alarm. But even if your body wakes you up and it's the alarm on your phone, I challenge you to hit the stop and to turn the phone over. I usually keep my phone face down for most of the day. But when I wake up in those first few moments of consciousness, the first thing I do is I just continue to sit in that quietness. After I've sat in the quietness for a few minutes, I take one hand and I put that hand over my heart. And I take the other hand and I put it on my belly and I breathe. I do diaphragmatic breathing, which is something that my mental health team has walked me through. And I was doing this level of breath work before I even understood what it was. But I breathe in and exhale through my belly. So it is my belly that I'm breathing in and out from. And after I've done that a few times, I then affirm myself. There's certain phrases, certain things that I say as a person who is a believer. There's certain scriptures that I say to myself. And I do that for a while. It sometimes can go anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. I stay in that place. And then I also meditate. And then I pray. And after I've done that, that's usually about a 30-minute time frame. Then I start to stretch. So I'm stretching anywhere from about 5 to 10 minutes. And after that time of 5 to 10 minutes, I pray again. And then I'm ready to get up. I do that before anything else, before picking up my phone, looking at social media. It actually sets my day. And you'll find when you come into a practice of before you jump out of bed, before you pick up your phone and start checking texts or any of your social feeds, and especially email, that practice in and of itself will help you throughout your day. Now, even throughout my day, I also, take time and sit still, and I'll meditate, or I'll just do breath work. And we'll talk about that later in the podcast on other episodes. But that's just a little sample of what I do. And I also keep water by my bed. I have a practice. I've been doing that for a long time. So the first thing that I drink in the morning is room temperature water. Sometimes I'll have a little lime that I would have put in it the night before. Just the lime juice itself from a fresh lime. I'll just squeeze some of the juice and put it in there. But the first thing that I drink in the morning is room temperature water. So my body is not having to go through the process to digest, to break down that cold water. It's room temperature water. So those are a few things that I do in the morning, particularly because I have the brain injury. It's super, super important for me to make sure that I set my day. And then this podcast is also open for those people that have PTSD, which I also have as well. A brain injury and PTSD are the perfect storm because there's a level of hypervigilance, and then there's also this fight or flight dealing that I'm having to, or folks that have brain injuries find themselves having to combat as well. So these practices that I just shared with you are critically important as a way of letting my parasympathetic system, letting my body know that we are well. We've already said how we're going to go into our day and that our day is set. So whether or not you have a diagnosis, whether or not you have any of these unseen injuries, or if you are finding yourself as a part of the community of people through the global pandemic that does suffer with some level of anxiety, some level of insomnia, these are some things that I've done and that you can do also before you go to bed that are very helpful. Going to bed and making sure that it's as quiet as it can be, that there's not a television on. If you are listening to something, perhaps listening to a certain frequency, or if you're listening to some soothing music, has also found to be very helpful as well. But we will talk about that in later episodes of the podcast. For me, it was super important to set how the podcast is going to go, to let you know some of the things that we will be discussing, to let you know some of the people that we will have on when we have guests, because we won't have guests every month. But when we have guests that come in, it will be those guests that I mentioned before, medical practitioners, those people who are mental health specialists, and people who also themselves have moved through a brain injury or unseen injury. As some of you may well know, I have done political and social commentary and have done this both nationally and internationally as an emissary. I've done this through media. Most people know me through Roland Martin Unfiltered, and I've not done that level of media since March of last year. I was a surprise special guest on the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show a few months ago and used that as an opportunity to talk about the podcast that is launching today, but to also talk about some of the things that I have traversed through in order to move through the day. I shared on the show, and it was back in December 9th episode. If you download Black Star Network app, you'll be able to access all of Roland's shows. But the December 9th episode is the one that I appeared on and talked specifically for about 20 minutes around what it looks like for me to move through a day. I shared all of that to say the level of work that I did specifically around politics is something that I'm not able to do at this time, just because it requires a heavy ingestion of media, which I'm not still able to do. I have to be very, very conscious and very careful about what I watch, what I tune into, and I have not been plugged into politics as much, a little bit, maybe 5% of the 95% of how I used to be plugged in, but that required extensive reading. It required extensive listening to where I was ingesting a lot of radio, reading a lot of pieces, reading articles, scouring newspapers, and then also just having a historical context as well. So I'm not for certain when I'll be able to get back to that place, if and when I can get back to that place. But what I can tell you is that I'm still very much so about building community. The other thing that I want to share is that I also, as we seek to end this piece, one of the things that I've also been very, very conscious about is that I suffered significant memory loss. That was really, really tough in the beginning, but I'm very grateful and so very thankful that I've been able to recover some of that memory. And that was also important, to be involved in commentary and just be involved in any type of deliverance of information, right? To be able to recall facts and make sure that those facts are in fact facts that are being recalled. So, having said all of that, we've been together now for about 22 minutes, as I can see on my timer. I really want to say thank you for you taking time, for taking an opportunity to join me on this introduction of the Reframed Brain. If you do hear some background noise, that is because I'm in a work, live, play area, and so sometimes those things pick up. But we're going to move our way through to make sure that we're delivering the best quality video and audio to you as well. I'm really, really excited, guys, for the journey that we're going to be taking together. And again, if you've not yet gone to the reframedbrain.com, please do join the community so you can be getting those emails that are sent out, particularly right before a new episode drops. You can get more information on live events that we will be doing later in the year. And that especially you can get those 5 best brain health tips and the playlist that was curated especially for you. So thank you so much again for joining me on this introduction to the Reframed Brain podcast. I look forward to seeing you again on this very same medium, the first Monday in February. And of course, if you're on that email list, you're going to have a special space to be able to know exactly when. But thank you again. Also, remember to please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I wish you good brain health, and I'll see you again on the first Monday of February. Be well, everyone. Chat soon.